What a promise you had when you came forth into this body. You knew that you were leading edge creators and that the environment would inspire you to your individual and collective desires. And that when you as an individual consciousness is aligned to your own desire, that all that is would align with all manner of circumstance and event and support to assist you in the culmination of whatever it is that you could imagine. You said, I am creator and I will go forth and I will have a joyous experience. In fact, you were so set on a joyous experience that you said, joy will be my quest. For if I seek joy, I will always be aware of what my guidance system is telling me. And in my always reaching for what feels best, I will always be reaching for alignment with Source. You stand in your now and you feel compelled to tell it like it is, to explain where you stand. And we say, but where do you really want to be? And you say, but this is where I am. This feels more important. This feels like it holds more weight. In fact, it feels so compelling to talk about what is, the truth of what is, that I feel inspired to tell you how long I've been here and how I got here and whose fault I think it is that I am here. The truth of it is, my mother was bit like this. And what we are really wanting you to begin to recognize is that your guidance system will always take you to the core of that which is true. And the core of that which is true is that you are worthy, and that you are vibrant, and that you are energy, and that you are creator. And when you are reaching for that absolute truth, it always feels good. And there may be some truths that people are living in this physical environment. You call it history. History is so full of stuff that you do not want. In fact, we would like to say to you that if you give your attention to history, it is sure to repeat itself. It's a little different than they're telling you, isn't it? We also would like to say to you that as you stand in your now, aware of the way you feel, that you will in every moment guide yourself to the connection of that which is really you, and you could not help but fulfill your reason for being. And we're here to remind you again and again that your reason for being here is for the joy that this opportunity gives to you. Many say, okay, so I reach for thoughts that feel good, and I teach myself joy, and I get so that I'm mostly feeling joyful, and I'm doing that because, and we say, because joy is natural to you. And you say, yes, I get that. So I'm joyful because I'm supposed to be joyful, but I'm being joyful because? And we say, because it is natural for you to be joyful. And you say, Abraham, I get that. I know that you say that, but why am I doing it? Why am I taking the time to learn how to be joyful? What really is the bottom line of that? And we say, joy. Yes, but what's it for? What is my motivation for seeking joy? You ask us this constantly. What is the true motivation for seeking joy? And we say, it is joy. And you say, yeah, but it's got to be for a reason. It's got to be for something. Like isn't it for growth? Have you heard nothing from us? When growth is your quest, then you start doing foolish things like looking for truth. And then you lose your connection to that which is your source. And then you flounder in your discomfort. And then you try to justify through your struggle any meager expansion. And we say, oh, it is so much going about it the hard way. If you will let joy be your quest, let it be your only goal, then natural expansion happens. And we have to say to you, whether you let joy be your goal or not, expansion happens. Expansion cannot help but happen. The basis of our experience is freedom. We are so free we can choose bondage. If our quest is that of joy, and growth is the natural byproduct of our existence, then how lovely of an experience are we all having? So, as we watch you and we see how well you're doing in some areas, we hear you often speaking from this place of where you stand now, feeling sort of stuck. It's like you can't get from where you are to where you really want to be. And we know that the reason for that is because you have some habits of thought, you have some vibrations within you that you've activated so regularly, and law of attraction has responded. In other words, you think a thought, law of attraction brings you more thoughts like that, so you ponder those. And as you ponder those, law of attraction brings you more thoughts like that. And so it's very easy for habits to get started. So often you find yourself standing in a place where you have these dominant beliefs that are nowhere near your current desire. Sometimes something happened when you were 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And as you observed it, without even realizing that your observation was causing you to begin to develop patterns of vibration, then law of attraction started answering those patterns of vibration, which you then observed some more. And so before you knew it, you were thinking like your mother, or you were thinking like your environment, or you were thinking like something that does not now match your desire. And you say, but it's true. I'm not doing anything other than expressing what is true. And we are wanting you to come away from this workshop today with a keen, conscious awareness and knowing that you do not have to be stuck with any vibrations that got started before. That even what you called your core beliefs are easily changed when you are paying attention to the way that you feel, that you can get to the true heart of your core. In other words, we would like you to return to what is truly your core belief. We would like you to return to the core of your appreciation of self and of life. We would like you to return to the core of natural love and natural appreciation and natural self-respect and natural self-adoration and natural expectation for wonderful things to come to you. That is your true core belief. So, we have a process for you that will be very effective in helping you to return to well-being, and it is the process that we are calling virtual reality. And it's a little bit like visualization in that you use your imagination, but there is a big difference in this process from other creative visualizations that we and others have talked about. Because this is not a game where you practice something that you want that you don't currently have by trying to define more clearly what it is that you want. This is a game where you take a thought that already feels good to you and you emphasize it until it feels better and better and better and better for the singular purpose of practicing a vibration and making it dominant. In other words, it's not necessary for you to be carrying around 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years later something that happened when you were 7, or something that your mother felt because of something that she was living, or something that some in your economy are feeling, or something that someone in your family is feeling. It's time for you to begin to choose what you are causing to be active in your vibration. You can begin to vibrate as you now choose, not as happened to you when the train ran over your toe when you were 2, or whatever it was that happened. In other words, you don't have to carry around those vibrations that you've been carrying around. You get to choose them now. But you have to choose them now. And what happens with this virtual reality is, as you choose it with one intent, and that is to find a vibration that feels good and practice how it feels, and hold it long enough that law of attraction can get a foothold with it, then what happens, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier and easier for you. Sometimes the temptation is, once you get in there and you set this great scene, is to bring someone in and try to reform them. Or work on an issue. In other words, let's go to a good place and work on this issue. Let's go in there and make more money come. Or let's go in there and heal the relationship with someone. And we say, this is not what this process is for. Because if you go to virtual reality and you bring something that you've been wanting into virtual reality, all that happens is you vibrate in your virtual reality just like you've been vibrating otherwise, and nothing happens. The virtual reality process did not serve you. So, as we're moving forward here today, we're eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. And sometimes we recognize that a little bit of background about why you're asking what you're asking helps others to understand more clearly, and sometimes can help you to emphasize your step 1. You understanding step 1, step 2, step 3? 3 steps to the creative process. Step 1 is ask, and you're always doing that. You can't stop doing that. You are issuing vibrational preferences continuously. Step 2 is not your work. That's source energy's work. Step 2 is the answering of your desire. That happens every time, instantly, automatically. Step 3 is where your emphasis is best applied, because step 3 is, once you have asked and source has answered, you must be a vibrational match to what you're asking for, or because of law of attraction, you will not let it in. In other words, you cannot feel disappointed about not having enough money, and the disappointment be your most steady, constant vibration relative to the subject, and let more money in. More money is a desire that feels good when it comes. You can't be discouraged or frightened about the illness that you hold and allow the wellness that you're asking for or praying for. Because the wellness that you're asking for is a different vibration than the discomfort or fear that you're holding right now. You follow? So, as you are doing your virtual reality, and you are doing it with the singular intent of finding a vibration that feels good and practicing it, what happens is it begins to be activated by your choice more and more and more. And as it is activated by your choice more and more and more, it begins to become more dominant more and more and more, until as it's activated more and more by your choice and becomes more dominant more and more, you now do not have to worry about deactivating that other stuff, because you've activated this new stuff. You see how it works? So, we are eager to talk with you about anything that is important. We will not spend very much time encouraging you to amplify what's gone wrong. We think that it is much to your advantage if we go right to what you want and why you want it. But you're going to notice something here today that might surprise you. We are not going to really encourage you to talk very specifically about the things you want either. Because if you really want something that you really don't have, then really not having it is your really dominant vibration. And so as we try to talk about what you want, what you really want, all we do is activate where you really are. You see how it works? In other words, when you pick up that stick that says, I want more money, if you have an active vibration, a dominant vibration of lack of money, then talking about more money just amplifies where you already are, and nothing changes. So we're going to play the game of diversion. We're going to play the game of activating vibrations of well-being within you, because we understand that the art of allowing means you just have to not be offering the vibration that doesn't let in what you want. So you've been asking all over the place. You have done enough asking to keep yourselves busy for 20 or 30 lifetimes. In other words, there is no shortage on asking. Every time you have been in any environment where any slight preference was discerned within you, source energy received it, held it, concluded it, and has been answering it ever since. In other words, sometimes you think, I've got to ask right now in order to receive right now. And we say, your asking is like a standing order. Source knows what you want. Source knows you want abundance and respect and clarity. Source knows that you want well-being. And you have defined it so precisely by sifting through the data of your time-space reality. There is a book that Jerry and Esther both adore. It is called Illusions. It is written by Richard Bach. And there is a line within the book. Esther considers it the best book ever written. There is a line in the book that says, the is has imagined it even better than you have. And the reason that that line is so powerful and so true is because the is, or all that is, or source, or whatever you're wanting to call this, has heard every preference that you have uttered and remembered them all, and has the ability to synthesize them together and answer them in perfection to you. So this manager called law of attraction is giving you whatever it is that you are wanting and allowing. And that's where this virtual reality comes in. You know, every process that we've ever offered has been to help you to emphasize the allowing part of that equation. When you get on a rampage of appreciation, that's what you're doing. When you're looking for positive aspects, that's what you're doing. When you're meditating, that's what you're doing. Meditation has to be the ultimate neutralization of vibration. In other words, when you stop thought, you stop vibration. And when you stop vibration, you stop any resistance. And when you stop any resistance, you are in the place of absolute allowing, you see.